Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Hub. Take a moment to imagine waking up tomorrow to a financial reality that feels completely unfamiliar. The currency strategy you have followed for years, the assumptions you planned around, and the physical notes you safeguarded with intention are suddenly no longer part of the future, but part of the past. For many who have tracked the Iraqi Dinar story, this idea has lived in the realm of speculation for years, debated endlessly online and in private circles. But today, that discussion has crossed into something far more tangible. What was once hypothetical has now been replaced by confirmed structural direction. This is no longer about guessing or decoding vague headlines. It is about recognizing that a definitive shift has begun, one that directly affects every holder of the legacy currency. For decades, the Iraqi dinar has existed in a recognizable form that became familiar worldwide among investors and collectors. These notes carried more than numerical value. They also symbolized a nation navigating sanctions, instability, and long-term reconstruction. For Iraqis abroad and international currency watchers, the dinar was never just paper, it represented belief in future recovery. Those notes reflected a specific economic era marked by uncertainty and slow progress toward financial normalization. Holding them required patience, often without assurance that the system itself wouldn't change before value could be realized. There was always the underlying risk that reform might arrive before appreciation, leaving unanswered questions about the fate of the old currency. That uncertainty has now entered a new phase. The Central Bank of Iraq has moved beyond discussion and confirmed a structured currency reform initiative. This development validates long-held beliefs that the existing system was temporary, but it simultaneously introduces urgency for current holders. This is not routine policy adjustment. It is a foundational restructuring of the monetary framework itself. The confirmation that legacy banknotes will be withdrawn in favor of a redesigned currency transforms the situation entirely. The waiting phase is over. The transition phase has begun, and understanding how it works is now essential for protecting your position. To grasp why this is happening now, it is necessary to examine the broader economic groundwork laid over recent years. This decision is the product of long-term stabilization efforts rather than a sudden impulse. Iraq has been steadily modernizing its banking infrastructure, strengthening regulatory oversight, and aligning financial systems with international standards. Consistent oil revenues, renewed foreign interest, and intensified anti-corruption measures have created a more sustainable fiscal environment. Previously, internal challenges made large-scale reform too risky. Current leadership appears confident that the economic foundation is now stable enough to support such a transformation. The details of how this reform unfolds are critically important for anyone holding the current notes. Available insights suggest the process will be carefully managed rather than sudden or chaotic. The initial stage centers on comprehensive verification of existing currency. The central bank understands the fraud risks tied to any large-scale exchange, so authentication will be mandatory. Every note must be verified as a legitimate issue before participation in the new system. As a result, the physical condition and legitimacy of your holdings will become decisive factors in whether they can be exchanged. Following verification, legacy notes will be replaced by a newly designed currency series. These new notes will reflect the modern Iraqi identity and include advanced security features to prevent counterfeiting and ensure compatibility with current banking technology. This redesign is not cosmetic, it is functional and strategic. The goal is a currency that operates efficiently within a global financial environment. Parallel to this rollout, banking and payment systems are being upgraded to support international settlements and foreign exchange flows, signaling Iraq's commitment to financial integration and credibility. For holders outside Iraq, this transition creates immediate logistical considerations. Assessing the physical condition of your notes is the first step. Torn, damaged, or defaced currency could face rejection during authentication. Proper storage and protection are no longer optional. Additionally, organizing documentation related to when and how the currency was acquired may become necessary. In an era of heightened compliance and anti-money laundering scrutiny, proof of legitimacy and acquisition timelines could play a role in the exchange process. There are also practical concerns regarding access for overseas holders. Historically, currency reforms are more accessible domestically, with international channels following later and often with tighter controls. Will authorized banks operate abroad? Will physical presence be required? Will specific exchange windows be enforced? These questions must be addressed ahead of time. Missing a deadline or failing to meet procedural rules could result in permanent loss of value, regardless of any future rate adjustments. A critical question many are asking is whether this reform automatically guarantees a significantly higher value. It is important to approach this realistically. The reform guarantees modernization and credibility, not instant appreciation. Currency value reflects economic fundamentals, not structural changes alone. While reform removes inefficiencies and improves confidence, it does not instantly change trade balances or political realities. This should be viewed as a foundation for growth rather than an immediate payout. That said, the long-term implications remain meaningful. A stable, trusted currency encourages foreign investment and reduces dependency on the US dollar. Increased adoption within Iraq and reduced black market volatility can strengthen demand organically over time. By reclaiming control of its monetary policy, Iraq is attempting to build an ecosystem where appreciation occurs naturally through economic strength rather than speculation. Still, the risks involved in executing a national currency transition are significant. Printing, distributing, and securing new currency while collecting old notes is logistically complex. Any misstep could lead to confusion or temporary shortages. Public perception will be critical. A lack of clarity or fairness could undermine confidence, especially if exchange conditions feel unclear or restrictive. Volatility during the adjustment period should be expected. International holders must also account for regulatory challenges in their own countries. Foreign currency exchanges tied to previously sanctioned regions often face strict oversight. High fees, unfavorable spreads, and enhanced scrutiny are common. Shipping, insurance, travel, and legal compliance costs can erode gains. Understanding your local regulations and banking environment is just as important as following developments in Iraq itself. Periods like this also attract misinformation and scams. Fraudsters often exploit reform news by offering special access or preferential exchange rates. These offers are almost always illegitimate. The Central Bank of Iraq will operate through official channels only. There are no exclusive backdoors. Trusting unverified intermediaries is one of the fastest ways to lose both currency and credibility. Timeline expectations must also be realistic. While the plan is confirmed, execution takes time. Reforms of this scale often span months or years and involve international coordination. Software updates, regulatory alignment, and public outreach cannot happen overnight. This will likely be incremental, with different stages rolled out sequentially. Patience and discipline will be essential. From a domestic standpoint, the reform is designed to improve daily life for Iraqi citizens. A modern currency supports digital payments, reduces reliance on large cash transactions, and encourages broader participation in the banking system. Financial inclusion strengthens economic activity and builds internal trust, which ultimately supports long-term currency stability. Transparency will determine the success of this initiative. Clear timelines, defined exchange windows, and consistent messaging are crucial. Ambiguity invites speculation, and speculation undermines stability. Observers should focus on operational execution rather than headlines. Smooth distribution, consistent communication, and responsiveness to public concerns will be the real indicators of progress. Emotionally, this moment carries weight for long-time holders. Validation, anticipation, and uncertainty coexist. Allowing emotion to drive decisions can lead to costly mistakes. Avoid impulse buying driven by fear of missing out, and resist panic selling to opportunistic buyers. Information, not emotion, is the strongest defense. External factors will continue to influence outcomes. Iraq remains sensitive to regional stability and global oil prices. Even the best executed reform cannot fully insulate the currency from geopolitical or commodity-driven shocks. Monitoring global developments remains essential. Your immediate focus should be practical preparation. Inventory your holdings, record serial numbers, document condition, and ensure proper storage. Backup purchase records. Check facilities where notes are stored. Preparedness ensures you can act efficiently once official exchange procedures are announced. Equally important is understanding your country's regulations regarding foreign currency. Exchange limits, reporting requirements, and tax implications must be considered beforehand. Consulting a financial or tax professional may be prudent. Regulatory readiness can be just as crucial as physical preparedness. A dual-currency transitional period is also possible, where both old and new notes circulate simultaneously. This overlap often represents the optimal moment for exchange. Once demonetization is finalized, legacy notes lose all monetary value. Tracking the sunset date will be one of the most critical responsibilities for holders. At its core, this reform marks Iraq's effort to turn a page. For the nation, it is a step toward normalization. For holders, it is the shift from speculation to execution. This phase is complex, procedural, and rarely linear. The narrative must shift from rapid profit expectations to disciplined asset management. As always, our commitment is to deliver verified information from official sources: central bank statements, parliamentary finance updates, and reports from international institutions like the IMF and World Bank. These sources matter. Everything else is noise. In closing, this confirmed reform represents a historic milestone, but not a guaranteed outcome. It demands increased attention, preparation, and responsibility. Passive holding is no longer sufficient. This is now an active process requiring planning and vigilance. If this breakdown was useful, subscribe to Iraqi Dinar Hub and enable notifications. We will continue providing clear, fact-based updates as this transition unfolds. Stay informed, stay prepared, and we'll see you in the next update.